In this video, let's take a look at compositing videos inside of Easy Video Lab. It is possible, it's just not quite as intuitive, and so let's go ahead and get started. So I have the same videos that we looked at before, and here, and I have the audio file. Let's get this out of the way. And so let's go ahead and just take some of these and we'll composite them in the video. Now, inside of Easy Video Lab, one thing you can do is you can just drag stuff onto the stage, and it's going to go ahead and put that video where the playback head is. So you can see I've already done that here for this first video. Now, as I talked about before in the previous video, we have trimming and squeezing and stretching. We have those functionalities for the most part inside of Easy Video Lab. In Easy Video Lab 2, we actually have trim, but I'll show you kind of a couple of variations you can do with that. But the most common way right now to trim that we have is we have this. When you have a video selected, you can go up here to trim, and basically what you can do is drag this, and it's actually going to trim that video to that point. So if you know that you want to go from, say, maybe 10 seconds, you can drag it, and it's cut off that 5 seconds, and it just what was there remains. If you turn on scale, it's the opposite. So if I take scale, what it's going to do is it's going to take that 10 seconds of video, and if I go this way, it's going to squeeze that 10 seconds into 8 seconds there, or it would stretch it to 11 seconds if you went there. So let's undo. I can't undo, so let's go ahead and go back to maybe 10 seconds there, and I'll go back to trim. So at this point, what I can do to bring in my next option is I can have some more. I can bring in another piece of video. Now, this is one thing that's just not perfect about compositing in Easy Video Lab, as I'll show you in a second. At this point, I can go right to the end, boom, snap it there, and if I brought in another video, it would go right at that end. Let's just go ahead and quickly show that. So if I drag that in here and I would add it, it would go right at the end there, and it'd be just nice and to the end. However, I do need to come up here and click on show, and this one I need to also click on show, because if I don't, then there's going to be a little white space in between each of those segments. And when I have that, it doesn't. It just goes ahead, and as I play it, it's going to go from one video to the next. But in most compositing, we can have some audio here. Let's go ahead and import some audio, that audio file that we had. And I'll show you one reason why I do recommend using third-party programs to composite. Let's see. So let's get to my desktop here, and we'll get that audio file. Where was it? There we go, frame kit. And it puts it in there. But here's the problem that we have, and I do need to kind of stretch it over there. So the problem we have here is that now I can't go nicely to the end because I've got video. So it's not going to snap right to the end for me to import the next segment. But typically when I'm working with my video and compositing, I'm trying to match my vocal, my audio. If it's not a soundtrack, this is a soundtrack, so it's just kind of imagine that it's a soundtrack. So I'm usually wanting to trim or scale or whatever in order to do that. Well, we can't, and so what we have to do here is we have to get as close as we can or whatever. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go a little bit beyond there for my next segment, drag that on the stage, hit OK. And then what I want to do is I'm going to move my playback head out of the way, and we have a snap feature. And so if you just have to get really close and then let go, and it'll snap. And so it still works fine. I want to make sure that I turn on show and so forth. So the last thing to kind of talk about is the whole freeze frame thing that I showed you before, and that is we don't have that inside of version 1.5.3, but you can sort of fake it. And what you can do is you can select a block here and duplicate it. So I have one over there, and then what I can do is trim to, say, this point. Okay. And then let's say that my freeze frame is right there at that point. So let's go ahead and, let's go back out so we can see my video. So my freeze frame is right there. So once again, I'm going to duplicate that block, and then I'm just going to come here just a little bit further, and that's my area where it's going to freeze frame. And what I want to do is just trim down to that. Okay, and then I want to zoom in as much as I can. This is not ideal, but this is what you can do. And then you can turn on scale, and then you can stretch that point there. So let's stretch that a little bit there, and then finally we'll go back over here to that. Let's zoom back out again, and I can come over here and have this segment kind of snap to that right there. So that's how you can do it. It's not ideal, but it is possible. It's especially possible for MP4 videos. It's a little bit more awkward doing it with QuickTime MOV. In fact, I'm not even sure you can. I haven't. As I'm recording this, I realize I've never tried. But nevertheless, so this is very similar to the process I showed you before. You do need to make sure and remember that every time you add a segment and you're snapping it to, you want to turn on Show there so that you don't have any white gaps. And then you can just keep doing that until you feel you complete your video. So again, this is possible inside of Easy Video Lab. It's just not as intuitive and just not as designed for that as many other programs. But what you definitely don't want to do is work with all the other layers and so forth, where you have text animations and all that kind of stuff, and try to do a long video that way. It's just really not designed for that. You'll really get frustrated. What you want to do is you want to make each segment, export it out, and then start with a new file, and basically do what I've just showed you here to get all your pieces together and do what's called compositing to make that longer video.